let's go on in. And I cleaned up for you, Clara.
I'm so impressed. I want to see that suitcase.
In all of them, there's a little person sort of out there in outer space sitting on a constellation map and looking back longingly and regretfully at our beautiful blue planet. It came from this conversation I had with my son years ago where he asked me if I would want to be on the first peopled mission to Mars. He said right away he wanted to go, and I said right away that I didn't want to go. So I just thought we'd explore this, and I was thinking about how if I had to go there because we've totally screwed our planet, I would think about all the things that I would really miss. And so the show became, what would I take with me that would be these kind of nostalgic reminders of what I'd left behind. I think in a way that refugees always, or immigrants always, bring things that remind them of home, whether it's photo albums or cloth or musical instruments, things that they had really loved from their past life. Most people will try to bring the most kind of emotional things they're mostly attached to. So in this case, what I'm most emotionally attached to is the Earth, our blue planet, our gorgeous blue planet, which, I think we're trashing. So all of these are kind of looking from afar and realizing that it's too late. We've screwed up. Regret and longing.
Well, I noticed it's an old-fashioned suitcase.
They started off with my relationship to the ocean because I grew up right on the ocean. So I was thinking about how much my understanding of the ocean has changed since my childhood. When we were kids, we took all this for granted. I mean, the ocean is clearly not boundless the way I thought it was when I was a kid. I'm looking at how our understanding and appreciation has changed, over the course of my lifetime.
The globe is stitched.
I found this amazing resource online. It's probably the largest online map resource in the world. Not only can you download them, they're enormous files. So you could print a map the size of this whole wall.
What?
And it would not be pixelated. Because they're traditional maps, most of them are rectangles. I needed to be able to put these into spheres. Stumbled on this amazing program online that will take a rectangle map, do the math for you, corrects the proportions at the top and the bottom of the Earth so that you can print them out into what's called gores. A gore is one of these things. Then the next thing I would do is take a sewing machine with a zigzag stitch, and I would sew the edge of each of these gores. And I would take a needle and thread, and by hand, I sew together the tips of each of the zigzags, so back and forth and back and forth. Sew up the edge, it grabs it and pulls it into a sphere.
How do you come up with stitching a globe and down this rabbit hole of maps and software?
I knew that I wanted to have images of the whole Earth, so the best way to do that was to go in and find maps. These are all printed on Tyvek. And Tyvek is the material that you see all the time when a new house is being constructed. You can't print on that material. If you go to the lumberyard and buy Tyvek, you can't print on it. It's too shiny. It's a plastic. The company that makes it, which is DuPont, realized that it had a lot of other potential. They started producing a product which was coated on one side with a surface that would accept printer ink. So you can buy it in rolls, and then you can just feed it into your printer, and it prints beautifully. It's amazing material because it doesn't rip. I can sew right up to the edge. If it was paper and you had the whole, from the needle right to the edge, it would rip.
I feel kind of lame that I just paint with watercolors and paper. And here you are talking about Tyvek.
Yeah. It's a whole obsession. Sculptors are always looking, we're trying to display space. So you're always looking for what material will do that.
You have a very specific curatorial eye. That you pick objects. Like, I will see an object and think, Jessica would like
Well,
that.
that's why I get things left at my door all the time.
That's it.
People go around and go, I don't want it, but Jessica will want it. And I can tell you that most of the time they're wrong. And I'm going, oh, no, someone's left me materials again.
I know you like olive oil containers.
Yeah, but even those I'm like really picky about. You've been to my house. Yes. My kitchen, the entire wall of my kitchen is, I open these cans up and I flatten them out, and they're nailed onto my wall.
It's a beautiful mosaic. What do they have to have?
Well, actually, there's almost none that I want anymore because they've changed the process for printing them. So now they're all digital and they're not beautiful anymore. You can do everything so easily on a computer, and they're soulless. So actually, I'm not interested anymore. Even when things were made in a factory, they still had a human being doing some aspect of them. So I started collecting these clementine crates. You know, now you can't even get them like this. I mean, just within the time I started collecting them, they started packaging them in the clementines in cardboard, again, with just a digital print that is ugly. I took apart the crates and I made all these little pieces. I just deconstructed the crates. They're, non-functional, but they have the feeling that they might be functional. I got so interested in them that I decided I wanted to make larger forms with them. I went to Liz.
My friend Liz Shepard,
Anyway, she is a fabulous printmaker, and I said, Liz, can you work with me to print on plywood? And my goal was to make replicas of these boxes. So I went to a lumber yard. I brought in one of these boxes and I said, I want to get plywood that is like that. And they said, oh, we're not going to give you plywood that's like that. We're going to give you plywood that's exactly that. It's made in Spain. And these boxes came from Spain. And I went to Liz with these big sheets of plywood. She scanned in the label and we printed up these labels. You can see what individual labels look like. And then
these are printed by Liz.
I played around. I made some backwards, some forwards. I played around with the color. I'm interested in that hand raw. I don't want them to be perfectly matched. So every time we ran out of a batch of ink, we'd make new ink, and I would make sure it wasn't exactly the same, but always within the margin of human error, which is something I'm very, very interested in. Like, I don't want that computer perfection where you can get everything exactly the same, has a soulless quality to it. And then I made these, it allowed me to make these larger scale work, even though I didn't have the original crates.
What is this object that you...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this is. I just found this form. There's nothing more to it than the top. And then I constructed the rest of the form. So in general, when I use found objects, the found object is a very small, minor part, and then I construct the form around it. I'll bring it up.
No, that is huge.
Well, it's about the same size as that one.
I know, but it looks so much bigger when it's being carried across the studio.
So this is one that never got finished.
You carved that?
No, it's not carved. It's constructed. Just cut out pieces of pine fitted together. So all of these have some kind of skeleton. Each time I have a form, I think of a new way to make the skeleton. So the spoked form works, and sometimes a completely different thing. And then once I have the form constructed, then I just take these little sheets of printed labels on the plywood and I fit them together thinking about what kinds of patterning I want.
Is that nailed?
Yeah, they're just nailed into this. So I'm always thinking about where do I need to nail these? What kind of curve do I want?